Hi and welcome. My name is Rob Scott from UC Today, and in this session we'll be running through some of the latest and greatest news stories. So today I'm joined by David Dungay, Editor-in-Chief, who will be talking us through some of the headlines. Welcome, David.
Hi, Rob. How you doing?
Very good. Thank you, David. Very good. And may I say, a very warm welcome to UC Today. So I know you've been here a few weeks now, but this is the first time we've managed to get eye to eye on a video session.
It absolutely is, and I couldn't be more excited, Rob. I've been watching UC Today from afar for a little while now, and really excited to be part of the team.
Yeah, it's good to have you here. So today we said we'd kick off our debut kind of news roundup of trending stories on UC Today, and no one better than yourself to maybe give us the scoop on some of these hot stories. So first of all, we said we'd talk about Halloween. Tell us more about your recent story that you produced for UC Today.
Yeah, absolutely. So Halloween is a little way ago, but we did produce some scary stories for our readers. There are two stories here. Where should we start? Let's start with the horror stories, which was written by Rebecca Carter from UC Today. So in this piece, I love this piece. It was all about what can go wrong in an online meeting. Now, since we all went home back in March when the lockdown in the UK occurred and in various other parts of the globe, we all had to deal with working from kitchens, from our front rooms, with partners, wives, and in some cases children, all working in the same environment. Now, that bred an environment where things did go wrong. People did wander into the back of online meetings. Pets did bark, postmen did ring the doorbell. It just became a natural part of life. For me, that was actually a really nice part of lockdown. I thought it was the realization that we're all human beings. We all have lives. We all have these things going on, and it was that acceptance of that personal. Those personal lives, which I think was a really nice thing, and employers in many instances really embraced sort of that culture. And the example that Rebecca gave in her piece was, of course, Professor Robert Kelly, that famous BBC moment where his child wandered into the back of the shot, and his wife ran in frantically and had to remove the child on a live interview. Now, of course, that was a long time before the pandemic hit us, but it does show how things have really changed on that front. What were your thoughts on that, Rob?
Well, first of all, that was an absolute classic, wasn't it, that video? And it's good to see it again because it kind of faded away in my memory bank a little bit, but it really kind of rings true, doesn't it, in today's world when everyone's now working from home. And one of the interesting things, and I work from home, you work from home, and it's, I suppose most of us are now working from home. But one of the things that really jumped out to me in the piece that Rebecca wrote was around kind of accidentally not ending the meetings. Now, I've not done that, but could you imagine not ending the meeting and then starting to have a conversation that might not be appropriate? I mean, that could be a complete nightmare for employees. So I think the message is you've got to watch out, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. There's, if you've been watching the mainstream headlines, a few people have dropped a few clangers, shall we say, on that front. But for me, I think the businesses that do get this right are going to really stand themselves in good stead. It's about that agility of working. There's a lot of people out there looking for work right now, and there's a lot of talent looking for those companies that really embrace this way of working. If your dog barks in the background, really shouldn't be a problem. If the doorbell goes, it really shouldn't be a problem. And I think it's those companies that embrace, these things that when they can go wrong. I think that's quite a nice message for employees.
Yes, and absolutely. And the technology vendors are helping with that, of course. They're bringing all sorts of kinds of new tech, aren't they? Like noise suppression, noise cancelling, and all sorts of tech to help suppress some or take away some of those issues. So, okay, I'd like to mention your very scary story that was a real hit on UC Today. I think we have something like 20,000 hits on one of your debut stories, actually. And It was about kind of the scary side of Microsoft Teams. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, clearly, Microsoft are they're doing something right. They've recently just reported 115 million daily active users, which is incredible when you think about it.
It's scary in itself,
population. Yeah, UK population, 65-ish million. It's 150. That's a lot of people using Microsoft Teams. So, and that's up 40 million from when they reported last, which was only in sort of April, May time. So, a lot of people using Teams right now. But as with all these products, no one's got the perfect solution, shall we say. So in that story, really, I was picking out a few of the things that users and particularly channel partners really need to be aware of. Let's highlight a few of those items in there. Mobile call rates, for example, outside of the bundle, 12.3 pence per minute, which is incredible. That is still there. And if you're a user and you do call a lot of mobiles, which we do, in the business world, we've all been using mobiles consistently for a long time. So it is quite feasible that you're calling mobiles a lot. If you do break through, you burn through your bundle minutes, you could get a bit of a nasty surprise at the end of the month. For channel partners, obviously, there is a lot of demand out there for Teams. We know this. We can see the numbers. Customers need to realize, what are they actually getting as far as the phone system goes. I spoke to a reseller recently who was talking to a 600 strong law firm about a Teams installation. And the conversation came down to the call routing. They needed the calls to be routed to different layers of secretaries, different departments, and they really needed a lot of flexibility. And they had to explain, the customer loved the Teams solution. I had to explain that, the phone system aspect of Teams, it wasn't up to the task. So that then led them down the road of Teams integration, direct routing, what was the best fit. So the customers really need to understand what are they getting out of a Teams solution. The partner in particular needs to know if they're dealing with a direct routing provider, how far down that process is that provider taking them? What do they need in terms of in-house skills, to really provide these solutions? And you wrote an interesting blog recently, actually, Rob, on the dark art of direct routing, which is really interesting. We've been talking for years about the IT partners coming into the telephony space and eating those telephony partners' lunch, if you will. But really, those telephony skills now are suddenly in demand. It's to deliver a really robust direct routing solution. You need those skills in-house. So if you're dealing with a supplier, DR supplier, you need to know, well, what are you getting out of them and what skills do you have in-house?
Yeah, and there is a great deal of value from looking at the direct routing element of Microsoft Teams. I think it really solves a lot of problems or challenges for more complex environments as well. So especially that PBX element. I mean, I've personally been programming PBXs for a lot of years now, or certainly I did or used to. But there's a lot of PBXs out there, very, very sophisticated and capable, and versus the Microsoft Teams phone system, I must admit, we use it here, and it is somewhat kind of limited in terms of functionality.
It is. I mean, a lot of businesses out there, if you've got simple requirements, I think Teams is pretty good, pretty perfect solution, really. But as soon as you get past a certain layer of complexity, you do need to think about things in depth, whether it does meet your requirements. But clearly, Microsoft are doing something right on the Teams front. 115 million daily users. It's hard to argue with that.
Yeah, it's an amazing platform at the end of the day. It's an amazing platform. It's just, I think going forward, we'll probably just see more and more functionality being added into the PBX phone system element there. So looking forward to that.
Yeah.
In terms of the next story we said we'd talk about was rethinking the Huddle room. Now, this was something I blogged about as well recently, and I thought it was quite something we should bring up today around the kind of world of the meeting room and how that's changing. So, David, did you read the article? What did you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Huddle rooms. It's been this phrase has been out there for a couple of years, well, more than a couple of years now. And they've been great dynamic little spaces where people can go and have fairly spontaneous meetings. We've got meeting rooms all over the globe right now, and businesses are looking at those rooms going, how do I use this room in during the current situation? The pandemic has thrown up a lot of questions for the meeting room in terms of how many people can I get inside this room? The nature of Huddle, that people working closely together in a small room doesn't really work in a sort of pandemic world. So we're seeing the emergence of new types of room. Nook is the new sort of phrase I'm hearing a lot for one person. Meeting room for one, which is fairly COVID safe, if you like. And those larger meeting rooms, people are going to be spaced out more. And from a partner perspective, really they need to think about, what do my customers need in terms of technology to facilitate, a larger room perhaps with fewer people in it, more spaced out. Do I have the right technology in terms of microphones? Are the cameras in there capturing everyone adequately enough? And those type of questions. I think it's a really interesting time for the Huddle room particularly, but clearly other types of meeting spaces as well. And what's your take on that, Rob?
Well, I suppose first of all, is it a meeting room anymore, or is it a meeting space? Because room feels or sounds so physical, and everyone's working now in a more virtual way. So maybe a kind of rephrase required there. I was reading some analyst comments as well around touchless meeting rooms versus app-enabled meeting rooms. I think there's some challenges there, and I think there's some things to be worked out around whether the meeting room should be a fully touchless environment now, a COVID-safe environment to make it COVID-safe, or whether an app is more appropriate for those environments. So, hey, this is all great for the industry. There's opportunity out there. There's problems to be solved for organizations and things to be worked out. So I think video is obviously here to stay now. It is the new voice, at least for the time being, until we all get Zoom fatigue and decide to go back to phone calls. But we'll see. But it's a really interesting space right now, and the meeting room environment has got a number of question marks hanging over it.
Absolutely.
And next up, David, we said we'd talk about the hookup between BT and Workplace from Facebook. There was an interesting story. Tell us more.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a fascinating story and a really great endorsement for Facebook. So BT have deployed Facebook Workplace within their community, within their over 180 countries, 85,000-ish staff, and that's incredible. The UK's largest telecoms company have decided to go with a social-based collaboration platform. Now, that's one part of the story, which is great endorsement for Workplace. The other part is it's not their only piece of technology they're using. They're actually using this alongside Microsoft Teams. So they're using Workplace in a slightly different way, and I think that's fascinating. So how are Facebook using this technology? They are, they're using it for that social capability, and it's what I like to call water cooler collaboration. So they're really using it, I guess, to capture that collaboration, which doesn't happen in that sort of organised fashion, and that's what Facebook's great at. I mean, Rob, you've written a blog, or you're writing a blog about social collaboration. What this means for the future. I'd be really interested in your opinions on this.
Yeah, as you say, this new story came through, and unless you really read it, you could have just kind of brushed on by and thought, okay, BT have deployed Workplace from Facebook, big deal. Do you know what? Not only was it 80 odd thousand, users deployed, I think the fact that it was sitting, and they've admitted this, it's coexisting with Microsoft Teams. And to quote BT, they said, Teams is the place where people collaborate. It's where documents are stored, and it's where people go to do work. Whereas Workplace is for conversations with other employees, sharing ideas, innovations, best practices, and building connections. So I think that quote in itself is what kind of raised my eyebrows. I thought, do you know what? what thought process did they go through to decide that Workplace was better over here, but Teams was going to continue over here? So it does beg a question: is should team collaboration apps like Microsoft Teams be used for kind of social connections in the office and in the workplace, or not? So I think that's my opinion. I think it just raises a real question mark around the social aspect of collaboration platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a question which I don't think we're yet to answer. It might be some time before we answer that as a publication. But BT clearly have their views around that, and they've got two absolute Goliaths of technology Goliaths in their ecosystem now. Which are Workplace and Teams, are they competitors now? They sort of do the same thing, but they don't. It is an interesting time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they all overlap, don't they, massively? But it's a really interesting thing to kind of ponder. And equally, I'm now wondering, is it okay to have a social conversation on Microsoft Teams, for example, when we're talking about work in a kind of thread or a channel within the collaboration tool? Is that okay? Can I kind of veer off and start talking about what I'm going to be doing at the weekend? Is that okay? Those are types of things going through my mind on that one. So,
if it isn't, we're doing it wrong, Rob.
Very interesting indeed. Okay, and finally, we said we talk about lockdown. It was, unfortunate for us, the UK, that we've all been kind of forced into lockdown again. What's your take on lockdown this time?
Yeah, lockdown is not entirely unexpected. I think a lot of people were, ready for it this time. From a business perspective, back in March, sort of April time, we saw that mad scramble for businesses trying to get their employees up and working remotely. Now, this time round, obviously, a lot of people prepared for that, but we're seeing different questions being asked of certainly the channel community. Now, rewind back to the initial lockdown, it was just about getting the job done, making sure we're up and running effectively as possible at that time. Now it's about really furthering that story. So we're seeing a second waves of UCaaS buying, if you like, and that is those companies really trying to hone their remote working technology for this second wave, essentially. And that's really going to give a lot of opportunities for partners to go in and really help these businesses. Right, you've got this, Mr. Customer, but you need to tweak it here, and here to really get the most out of your technology.
So there is a silver lining in the lockdown for potentially the channel partners out there that offering UCaaS solutions and collaboration platforms, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. There is, unfortunately, if there's a lot of people suffering right now, and really feel for them, in terms of the economy. But if you're a channel partner selling technology right now, it's not a bad place to be if you're selling the right stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Rob, looking ahead, we've got lots of stuff going on here at UC today. We've got a lot of events, a lot of virtual events happening. And I'd really like to sort of have a little chat about what's coming up for us and our community. One of those events I spoke about there, Talking Teams, obviously Microsoft Teams. It's absolutely everywhere. Everyone's clamoring for information. How do they do this? How do they do that? How do they make it better? And UC today is committed to furnishing our readers, our audience with those answers. So, Talking Teams, it's launching on the 17th of November. Come along, register on ucsummit.com. Rob, can you tell us a little bit more about that event and what it's going to deliver?
Sure. So it is essentially a micro event. So it's a 2-day event. It's fully virtual. You can jump on ucsummit.com and you can register for it for free. It's largely focused on direct routing, i.e. there's so much buzz around direct routing in Microsoft Teams right now. We thought we'd pull together some of the industry experts and just do a handful of sessions on really how to kind of work it out, what it's all about, what are the benefits. And we've got a great lineup of speakers, available to in short sessions available to watch. So I'd encourage anyone, looking at direct routing or trying to work it out, to certainly attend that event.
Yeah, absolutely. So other things on the horizon, November. This is our emerging technology focus month. So we're going to be talking about all things artificial intelligence, IoT, VR, AR, and all the funky stuff you're going to see in the future of communications. Have a look on the website. There's lots of content going up on a daily basis, and it's a really, really good time to educate yourself on what's coming up. This week, we've also had our launch of UC Summit 2021. It's launching in January. It's the second year round. It's going to be bigger and better than ever. Rob, do you want to take us through maybe a few of the highlights going on there?
Sure. So it is our second year, as you mentioned. We kicked off our first virtual annual conference last year, early on this year. So it launched in January this year, and it's coming back again in January 2021. But as you say, much bigger, better. We've completely overhauled the virtual event platform, so it's a whole new experience. Plus, we've got a whole bunch of great vendors and thought leaders involved in the event. So come along to the event. We've got a week on UC, we've got a week on collaboration, and we've got a week on CX technology. And it will all be available to watch on demand as well. But there's some great content on show, and some excellent virtual booths where you can kind of pick up all the latest and greatest kind of information about the brands and their products and technologies. So really looking forward to it. But just jump on the site, register, add it to calendar, and slot it in for next year.
Absolutely, Rob. It's going to be a fantastic event. I really cannot wait to see what's coming out of it. The big brands, the big speakers. We've got it all. If you're interested in any of those three topics, that's customer experience, that is UC, that is collaboration. There is really no other event that brings all of this stuff together. So, Rob, I've had a great time talking with you today. I've really enjoyed these topics. If you've enjoyed listening to us, give us some feedback. We'd really like to deliver you some more of these type of sessions, and make sure you catch up with the stories we've been talking about today online at uctoday.com. And I think it's time to say goodbye now, Rob. It's bye for me and bye from Rob Scott. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for watching.